What's up, buddy?
How are you?
Good.
Participants, well,
George Womble's retirement, every time I got time for the broker corner, I get nervous. But I still do because you never know what's chance.
Yeah, a clipping, someone
This
had
is
been,
2021.
this has been some, listen, no, so Tom gave this to me and said someone had been a broken charge for 45 years and they were giving it up. See if I wanted to go to Morehead City. No. Just want to talk a little bit for people that don't know me, other than to reach out to me when y'all in trouble. It hurts my feelings. Kind of get to know me beforehand, so that way I can fight for you. I don't like to go in and fight for someone I don't know. So if you have not come and met me, I'm right across from Jeremy. Come and meet me. Bring me, I don't drink Starbucks, so bring me a Panera's card. Oh, no, never mind. But come and get to meet me. And the reason why, I can go back to Sunday when I was at the Durham Bulls game, and I said to myself, I have a team of people, and they're up pitching, and how many times am I gonna work really hard for someone if I don't know them? If I don't know you, I can't go in and say, oh yeah, this agent did this and they did this right, and I have never seen you until the day you come up with the problem. So come and hang out with me so you get to know me, so that way you can call me when you get in trouble before you get in trouble.
That's
So I
a
can help
business
you.
lesson, isn't it? Build a relationship before.
You make deposits before you need to
Right.
make a
Right.
withdrawal.
So whether that's your home inspector,
Right.
your appraiser, your septic guy, whatever, and then when you call, you're like, I'm in a pinch.
And Sharon say, oh, how hard are they pinching you? Because I don't like pinches. So just make sure that you get to know me. I swear, y'all, I'm so good to hang out with.
If they
Gotta
were to
tell
know
you.
you, what's your favorite bride? They needed to bride you.
Good
Cold
bears.
Stone, no, Cold Stone ice
Cold
cream.
Stone.
Cold Stone ice cream.
Cold Stone cream.
Cold Stone ice cream, you got me.
And apparently
Good to go.
Durham Bulls tickets.
Durham Bull tickets, Tar Heel tickets, and Dallas Cowboy tickets. So
All losing
Yes.
teams.
all losing teams. But at some point they were champions, right? Compared to the Mafia, right? Okay. So anyway,
Think about how less cranky she is when you walk into a broker in charge versus my good friend George Wobble. Sharon's always smile.
he is so sweet in there. He is so sweet.
Cranky. 24/7, but close to it.
18/7. He only slept 6 hours a day.
He is so sweet now that he's in my little coat in the cold back there in the back. So
hole.
in the hole. We got him in the hole. Anyway, just want to some reminders. CE, electives, updates. You got to have them done by what day? Please don't wait till June 9th.
Bill Gallagher's doing the update Thursday morning.
And he came out back from retirement. He's the best thing ever. You don't learn much, but you laugh the whole time.
He'll entertain you all day.
All day long. So make sure you do that. License renewal started on the 15th, and you got to when to pay it. When? June 30th.
Rainey wasn't sure, that's why she was whispering.
She was like whispering. I just paid mine today. So this is what we need from y'all. And if you have an LLC, which I do, Simply Sharing Real Estate, then you have to do both. Not one or the other. So anyway, make sure you do that and send it to who?
Me,
Not to me,
me.
to Jeremy. So he can put it in your file. Also, your privilege license. You cannot do business if you haven't paid it.
I heard some gas, like people don't know what that is.
Oh,
What's a privilege license?
the privilege to do real estate, the privilege to do business in North Carolina. It's $50. You cannot do it electronically, like we all like to try to do and can't figure out why it won't go through. You have to print it off. You can fill it out online, but you have to print it off and send them a nice $50 check. Okay, make sure y'all do that. And our lovely tech person will send y'all a reminder, like, you know, we don't have a check. And what else is there? I think that's it. Other than Art has a class the last Friday of every month on compliance. Please attend it because there's some things that he knows that I don't even know because he's in the cusp of everything that's going on. He knows everything. And so attend those classes so you can ask those questions. Because if I'm in Las Vegas, I'm probably not going to answer that question for you, but Art to be here. I will be in Las Vegas next week. But I'm just saying, my daughter's getting married on Tuesday, next Tuesday. But just make sure that y'all are attending those. That's the time you can ask him all these questions, why he rejects your form, sends it back. I don't know. So when you call me and you ask me, I'm like, I don't know. He sent it back. What did you do or not do? So just make sure you do this every Friday, the last Friday of every month, 10 o'clock.
May I offer a thought?
No.
Are you gonna give it to us?
So right now, we're all trying to figure out what wins, right? Everything's multiple offers. We're trying to find out which contracts are winning and which aren't, stuff like that. Who do we know that knows what every winning contract looks like? Yes, that will talk to us. Art. I'm saying, Art sees every winning contract. He's gonna know what are we seeing in due diligence money? What are we seeing in earnest money? What are we seeing in rent? All kinds of things. I would be spending some time with Art.
Yeah, I will hang out with them. At first, he was a little intimidating, but now.
He's a nice guy. He's a smart guy.
But that's it. Any questions for me?
He was an IBMer forever.
Was he?
Yeah, he works at IBM.
What time is it on Fridays?
10.
Fourth.
Last Friday.
Fourth.
It's the last, it's the 4th?
Fourth.
It's always the last Friday.
And Art knows a lot. He's a student of the business. I mean, that's part of the reason he likes doing our compliance for us. He likes the contracts and see what's winning and what's not, and stuff like that. So.
And I've been able to convince him to change some things that I felt like was a little antiquated. So it's not like you can't ask him to change stuff, but definitely he's going to be the person that rejects it.
You're an agent of change.
My ears are burning.
We love you, Art.
Well, I love you all too.
See? It's always listening.
Thank you for keeping us out of trouble, Art.
You're welcome.
Okay, you want to shout it out?
Yeah, so I just want to let you guys all know that whoever doesn't know me, I'm Heather Crawford with Movement Mortgage, so I'll be there if you have any questions afterwards, but a couple of things in talking about winning the deal that I want to let you know. We're doing conventional loan financing as short as 21 days from having the executed contract. So if that helps you win in the multiples. Also, I just saw a notification today that NC Housing, which we do the down payment assistance for that, they had a substantial increase. Their maximum sales price previously was 290,000, and as of May 24th, it's going to go up to 345,000. So they also had a little bit of an increase on a couple of the programs on the income limits, but it's, you know, still fairly tight. But that was a big increase to the 345. So also, if you ever, if it's of any value, I'm always happy to call the listing agent and advocate for the fact that we have, you know, fully pre-qualified buyer with the income and asset docs.
That's a great thing to do.
Can I ask a question? I've got a lot of questions from people asking about the VA. If they have a VA loan and it doesn't appraise, can they get back into the
It's kind of a gray area that I probably refer to, you know, to our attorney, because I think the spirit of when that was written was that they weren't really supposed to be out, but it's something that's probably going to result in litigation.
So then the two other questions on VA loans, I've gotten two different answers. Can they do an appraisal waiver on a VA loan? And then the second is, I had a property that was under contract on a VA, it fell through, we got a second VA loan, we had to get a second appraisal. I had always been told that once you have a VA appraisal, it's not that property for the rest of your life.
For 6
months.
6 months.
Yeah.
If that's not what happened in this transaction, they had to go to appraisal.
Well, a lot of times with getting the new appraisal, it depends on exactly how the other company was willing to do the release. And sometimes they won't do it in such a way, regardless of the financing, that we can completely use that. I know like on FHA, the case number will follow for a while, but oftentimes you will, regardless of the financing type, have to get another appraisal.
So
Because someone paid for it and they own it.
Well, usually it's done in the lender's name, so
Right.
even if the client's prepaid for it.
So the second lender required to do a VA appraisal.
So very likely then they could not access the original one, Heather, right? Because the different lender,
Just to warn you,
Yeah.
I had always been told, because we had to do appraisal on the first one, and so
Right.
we were like, oh, good, then we don't need to worry about it, and then we had to get it.
well, honestly, we used to use that as kind of a negotiating threat. Like if it didn't appraise, we'd tell the seller, well, if you don't lower your price to this appraisal is going to follow the property for a while. But we lost sound. All right, Gary. What's going on in the world of commercial real estate?
Quite a bit, actually. So everybody probably knows that Apple's coming, right? You've read that for the last couple of weeks. 3,000 people, $187,000 a year. What you may not have thought about is that Apple's going to, okay, 3,000 people coming in here, they're going to be taking employees from other IT companies or whatever in the area as well. Not going to be all these 3,000 people coming just to work at Apple. So those 3,000 people, some of them are going to be coming to backfill the spaces in the other IT companies. So if you have any connections with some of those kind of companies, you know, that's good to talk to some of those HR folks, and because they're going to have people coming in as well, again, not just the Apple folks. So that's the thing to keep in mind.
And other companies will follow Apple in, you know, as there becomes a labor pool here of people that can do that kind of work. Other startup companies and things will locate here too, so that they can hire people.
Yeah, exactly. And the other question you may not have thought about is, will anything happen before Apple builds their campus? I mean, they're supposed to build 1 million square feet of office space and stuff. And the answer there is probably so. I mean, I've heard that if any of you know the MetLife campus that was built on Weston Parkway, there are 3 buildings there that MetLife built. MetLife has downsized, and they only occupy 2 of those 3 buildings. And there's some talk that perhaps Apple will sublease the 3rd building just for them while this construction is going on. And they may even need more space somewhere else, but that kind of stuff will happen before and while this campus is being built. And you've probably been looking at the paper. It's not just Apple that's coming. There's been a big influx of other folks as well. Fidelity said they're looking at another 500 people. Nike is looking at the area. I just learned at our commercial meeting that, I don't know if you said it, Tom, but they're looking at the Blue Cross Blue Shield building in Durham. Somebody said that.
The guy you were giving a hard time to about being the residential guy.
Was that you?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're closer to the source there in Chapel Hill. So,
I think Fuji's building a big facility by us in Holly Springs.
well, yes, they are. Yeah. So
It sure seems like the Triangle is getting ready to enter this like Renaissance era of just growth. I think it's going to be an interesting 10-year period.
Google's bringing about 1,000 people. Red Hat's bringing more people in here. Amazon's bringing more people and building a new place in Johnson County.
So those are all high-paying jobs. You're going to probably read a lot more about middle income. What do they call it? I can't remember what they call it. The rent. So that there's an equal amount of housing for people who are middle income, not just the high income folks. So there'll be some of that. And you probably also read that a lot of companies are having problems hiring people now for whatever reasons. That's created the whole renaissance, I guess, of what they call second chance hiring, especially for some of these firms that need restaurant workers and things like that. And second chance hiring is actually a whole concept about hiring people with past criminal records. So, you know, that's what companies are going to have to consider. And I'm sure they'll have all sorts of protocols for understanding, you know, what these people are doing now and whatever. But there's going to be some of that going on as well, especially for some income tiers. And then lastly, the Morrisville factory outlet that's been sitting vacant for like 7 years. There's a company that's come in and rented that whole space. It's called what's it called? Invitae, and that whole development is now renamed The Stitch. And they expect 375 jobs, and they are a high-end office research and lab space. So that whole facility is being remodeled and upfit for this this company.
Oh, they turned into a church.
Nope. You can go back in time. It was there were rumors all over the place for years. This was going to be a Chinatown that was going to have a variety of Asian vendors and things like that. That never got off the ground. There are all sorts of things, but now this company has come in and they got the whole space. So that will be revitalized, as will the ISOL on Capitol Boulevard. That hotel is now demolished. So there'll be something coming in there too. So people are gobbling up anything that's usable these days.
We'll see more and more of that throughout the whole Triangle. And remember,
you know, the west side of the triangle get pretty active too. So Durham, Chapel Hill, you know, all those areas out there as well.
Thank you, Gary.
And the cool thing is, you know, we are at KW Raleigh, so when Keller Williams agents from Cupertino, California, or any of these places look for referral partners, guess where they tend to look? There's 7 market centers in the triangle. This one's Keller Williams Raleigh. They don't necessarily know Apex, Durham, et cetera. They start here very often. So a lot of these referrals come in here to you all, so.
Art, you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Do you want to talk some more, or do you want Sharon to talk for you?
It's like the disembodied voice that's the compliance guy that's off in a closet.
Pay no attention to the man behind him.
Right.
The great and powerful.
Well, what I was doing was uploading forms in case I can't share my screen. For those of you who are interested in the new disclosure forms, I just put them in the chat. I'm going to try and share my screen, but if I'm not a presenter, I cannot do that. So let me just talk about a couple of things in regard to compliance. First of all, the reason that I do what I do is to be a help to you. I try and protect not only Keller Williams, but also your assets, okay? I try and protect all of our assets, ensuring that when we indeed enter into a transaction, that we cover all the requirements and do the forms correctly. One of the new forms that's being released is the Working with Real Estate Agents Disclosure Form. Many of you have started using the form. It's going to be a requirement to use that particular form by July the 1st, but they've kind of given us a soft entry into utilizing the form. Now, this form, in a sense, replaces the Working with Real Estate Agents brochure. That form is going away, but there is a new brochure, a question and answer on working with real estate agents that will be released sometime between now and July the 1st. That is not a required disclosure. What is required is this 1-page form, or 2-page if you print it front to back, for buyers and for sellers. And this form applies to commercial agents, it applies to residential agents, and so forth. And it still requires disclosure of agency. And again, the form is for the agent themselves, and specifically to disclose the type of agency that are offered by the broker, the real estate firm. So in completing the form, please check 3 of the boxes minimum. In other words, our real estate firm practices all types of agency. There are 4 types of agency. There's exclusive buyer agency, there's dual agency, and then there's designated dual agency for transactions within the firm. You can also work with a buyer who is unrepresented, and that's the last box called an unrepresented buyer. Now, what I've done for you is, and there was a problem with uploading, so I have to get it corrected, but I have gone ahead and set up a template, and it's in the KW232 NC folder within DocuSign. But I went ahead and X'd the 3 boxes because it's the firm where the agency agreement exists. And the instructions on the form says the agent are to check the boxes. Well, since the firm acts, you can offer all 3 types of agency in-house. Plus, if you run into a buyer who wants to work with you unrepresented, then you can check the last box. In addition, I went ahead and filled in the blank for the firm name, Keller Williams Raleigh. And those forms are thus, available to you in DocuSign. You can go ahead and start using them. But please do not misunderstand. As an agent, you still have the responsibility of disclosing agency. All right. Next thing that Any questions on that?
Nope. We're in-house.
Okay, great. Let me move on to a couple of areas that occasionally we have that I run into issues with when I'm reviewing your documents. Number one, in the general guidelines to the forms, it gives the instruction to fill in all the blanks. Now, I don't write up everybody every time I find a blank in a form. In fact, I rarely write up unless there's a potential of a misunderstanding, something that would be unclear, and that type of thing. However, I do want to mention that this is important in protecting you and the firm, because the preparer of the document is held to the higher standard. In other words, if this would ever come up as a review by the Real Estate Commission, or, you know, God help us, if it goes to a lawsuit, if a form is unclear, or if a form has been handled incorrectly, like using a commercial form instead of a residential form in a residential transaction, then that side that prepared the document will basically lose. The other side will be granted whatever understanding of the document would be favorable to their position. So please take the time to complete the forms, and that would include filling in the information about the lien, the mortgages, and that type of thing. Furthermore, you want to be precise, and certainly do not draft contract language. I reviewed a file, thankfully not from our firm, but from a buyer from a different firm buying a property recently. And under the paragraph where you list all the addendum that go along with the contract, you know, like the additional provisions addendum, the FHA addendum, and all of that, where all of those things are listed, in the little blank space where there was a note where you could note an attorney drafted addendum, a seller drafted addendum, and those types of things, they had literally filled in an escalation clause and drafted an escalation clause. So it's just, and if you get something like that, I highly recommend, even though it may end up being a counteroffer, that you speak with your seller client and have them understand how that could be a problem. We can't give legal advice, but we can explain the forms. So that could be, you know, a potential legal issue. And furthermore, it was so unclear as to what would happen with due diligence money, what would happen with earnest money. And, you know, it basically left everything wide open. The same is true with a couple of other areas within the contract or within the offer to purchase and contract. Now, as Scott mentioned, I do see a lot of contracts. I see the contracts that have, you know, the offer to purchases that have gone under contract. And I'm seeing some amazing things as far as what's going on with due diligence fees, with what's going on with closing dates, and these escalation clauses. I'm seeing appraisal contingencies being added to contracts where the buyer is agreeing to, no matter what the appraisal comes in at, that they will buy the property. Word of caution in light of that, just be sure that your client understands that if they put $100,000 in due diligence down on a $300,000 house, like I reviewed a contract recently, your client may lose $100,000 if the seller or if they have some issue with the property and want to walk away. They must be, you know, you want to be sure they understand what's going to happen with due diligence money. And I have
Hey, Art, the challenging thing about that, remember, it could be something that really can't be helped. It could be a cloud on title.
correct.
So it could be something that prevents really anyone in their right mind from buying that house. Guess what happens to the $100,000?
Gone.
And the listing
When it comes
agreement,
back.
though, isn't the agent certified?
Maybe.
that they convey clear title?
They have to.
It might be something, that's kind of okay, but you might not be comfortable with. It's just be careful with huge due diligence monies. There's a risk.
So if the seller
What-
doesn't have clear title,
I'm not saying not clear title.
the
This
buyer
might
might
be
need the right to get his $100,000 back. on due diligence.
maybe, but this is where we're not lawyers, so we can't give legal advice.
Well, I think this is a problem.
What about
It may
covenants?
get back,
What
may
about
be able to get
covenant?
back versus can definitely get back are two different things.
Right, and there's lots of hidden defects that can come up, particularly where people are buying properties that are older properties and are still paying $250,000, $300,000 for them, and they're putting down $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 in due diligence fee. What happens if they find an underground buried storage tank? Or what happens if there's asbestos in the property? You know, then you're talking another 20, 30,000 remediation that they may not understand. Or what happens if the well fails, if it's in the county? Or if there's radon? I mean, there's just any number of things that can come up in a transaction that can.
Just
cause
think it through, like, brand new house in a subdivision or one that's a couple of years
Right.
old, that's been sold one time. We knew it had clear title 2 years ago when it was sold. Different than an old house inside the Beltline or
Right.
off in the county somewhere that who knows what's gone on with that property or the title to it.
That's correct. The other thing, a couple other quick points, maybe some of them may seem funny, but please put down an amount you're going to get paid in paragraph 4B of your agency. I'm getting them through with blanks or NAs or different things from time to time. Same thing is true on the agency section. It's either paragraph 14 of the buyer agency agreement, or I think it's paragraph 17 under the listing agreement. If all of those come through blank, you don't have an agency agreement. It doesn't exist. You cannot get paid. And submitting documents is the last thing I'll talk about. Please submit them as soon as you can. We ask within 72 hours. And the reason we do that is the Real Estate Commission expects the firm to have your transaction documents in the files with our office. And if they would ever show up and ask to see our transaction files for whatever reason, they can view every file in the firm. And if they don't find something, then that's a violation of commission rule.
So Art, what you're saying is it's not a Keller Williams rule, it's a real estate commission rule.
Right. And in fact, that's most of what that I'm enforcing, is that I'm endeavoring to enforce license law, commission rule, TMS rules, and so forth, and also code of ethics if I happen to see something along that line.
I hate to interrupt, but there is something that came up in one of my CE classes recently. I think it's something that we as agents should be hyper cognizant of, because we've never had to worry about this before in regards to high due diligence fees. And this is something that Art has touched on a little bit. Let me create a scenario for you real quick. VA purchased last year in Durham. Somebody buys a home, 100% financing through VA, right? Market shifts, job shift, they go to sell the house this year. Their net after the sale, after paying commissions, is $25,000. They receive $75,000 in due diligence. Well, what do they do with that due diligence? They go put it down on the property that they want to buy. Now, they're only netting $25,000 from the sale of their home. Can anybody see a problem here at the closing? They're supposed to bring a check for $50,000 to the closing of their first house. Where is that money? On their purchase. You've got an agent and a bunch of buyers and sellers there in one hell of a legal quagmire. This is, I want to say, this is not connected to anybody I know. No, not me. No, I would never do this. I would know better than my clients, especially if I'm listed a property. I know what they're going to net from that sale. But I say this as a word of warning, because we're all doing enormous amounts of due diligence, and sellers are using the due diligence they receive to put down the property they're going to buy. So if they are bringing money to the closing table, which they might if they receive $75,000, $100,000 in due diligence, they need to know what they are going to have to bring. to the closing table, that they can't overextend themselves because you've created.
We,
people are
and
getting
we have
screwed.
to remember there's what contracts say and then there's reality. Ruby and I've talked like this stuff, kind of weird stuff happens. My point was, let's say I've given Robert $100,000 in due diligence money and now the contract falls through and it might be Robert's fault because his house has a problem. Now what? Robert may have my money back. No,
It's going.
I already spent it.
Yeah.
How do you like my jet ski?
Yeah.
Right? Now what? Now
Yeah.
I've got to get attorney. I'm just saying, we've got to be careful with how we're counseling clients because when we say things like, you definitely get it back. Yes, we just get it back and stuff like that. Maybe we do, maybe we don't.
Anyways, we all need to be
Yeah.
cognizant of
Yep.
It's scary stuff.
All right.
That is why I think that every buyer that uses, even an agent, buyer's agent should have an attorney represent him.
Yes, agreed. We always
In case we
advise
get
legal
into a
counsel.
situation like that.
Yep, we always advise legal counsel, so. Team's on?
Yep.
All right. We ready to move on?
Yes,
Were you wrapped up?
yes, all done.
We'll see you Friday?
Friday, yes.
Yes.
The last Friday of the month, which isn't
Yes,
yet.
last Friday of the month. Okay. Thank you, Art.
You're welcome.
We're gonna come back to a couple slides. We've got a guess, right?
Yeah.
Is that the plan?
Yeah, we're just gonna do that.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm Ed Robertson. My company's Home Team Inspection Service. I think most of you know me. Many of you have been through our classes here and worked with us. We do residential and commercial property inspections. And to Gary's point earlier, I'll mention we've done more commercial in the last 3 months than we typically do in a year. So I think people are searching out deals now. At Home Team, I used to think as a home inspector that we had a tougher job than you guys, but I don't think that anymore. We only have crawl spaces and spiders and snakes and stuff. You guys have the real dragons that you're trying to slay these days. So I'm pretty happy in the home inspection business. Keep the deals coming. At Home Team, we provide what we call a one call does it all service. That is, you call us, we make all the things happen that you need in a real estate transaction. Of course, the home inspection, termite, radon, well and septic. I do water analysis in-house if someone just wants a water test. We do swimming pools, we do indoor air quality and mold sampling. I would tell you, if you can see mold to sample it, don't call me. You know you got mold, but if you smell something or suspect something, I can do indoor air quality. So we do that quite a bit. Swimming pools, we have a real depth of experience with very old homes going back to 1812 and a lot of stuff in between. And of course, as you can imagine in this market, we do a ton of new construction day in and day out, including the pre-drywall at that phase. And we do those more and more. I think it's becoming more a standard part of those transactions that people understand. What we do with that, typically it's a 2 or 3 inspection series that someone will get a pre-drywall and they get a closing and get a warranty, or often they'll do the pre-drywall, skip the one at closing and have us back before the warranty runs out. That's between you and the client. What I do is that pre-drywall would be at regular price and then I discount the subsequent inspections for a multiple deal there. So customer service 8 to 5 weekdays. Very easy to work with us, online scheduling 24/7. I encourage you to visit our website. You can meet the team there, and there's also another inspector on staff now. I've got to get him on there. Very good guy. I've got 3 additional inspectors. You can meet the team. There's a price list posted on the About tab and also a sample inspection. Our inspection reports are literally the easiest to read in the business. Read like a book with pictures. Super easy to read and understand. We always encourage the client to be there at least for the review, because for the client and the agent, that helps you understand that report. It just makes it make sense. And if it doesn't, anything in the report that wouldn't make sense to you, you get a chance to clarify it when we've done that review. So we always encourage people to come to that. Mentioned customer service, very easy to work with. Those of you who've worked with us, you know, if you get your name and your phone number, email address in on that order, somebody's calling you from the office pretty soon. I also do the classes. You guys probably see those more than anybody in the Triangle. Home inspection orientation, it's designed for newer, less experienced agents, but I've had 30-year people sit in the room and say, this is good information for everybody. HVAC for realtors that focuses on useful information for a realtor when you're walking through that property. And then radon gas in real estate. We take it from how does it form? Where does it come from? How does it get into the house? What are the health effects, literally down to the cellular level? What are the health effects of radon gas to people? And then also how you mitigate it in breathing air and in water. So we try to find areas that we can provide value to your business. And if you guys have something that you'd like to see a class on, let me know that's in that realm and we can put something together for you. I'm always available for technical questions. We've done some things where we had a group, went out and did a walkthrough, walked and talked about things you might see and what you might think about those. Always happy to do those sorts of things. I'm going to hang out to the end of this. If anybody has questions, got a question now, happy to field it, but I'll be available after. If there's anything you just want to talk about, homes, sports, cars, let me know. Ed Robertson.
When's your next class?
We are doing one. There was some calendar confusion, but I think we've got it on the 26th next week.
And thank you, Ed, for sponsoring lunch
Sponsoring the
today.
lunch?
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm gonna hang around and have that too. Thank you, guys.
Ready for our special guest?
Ready for our special guest. One of my favorite people. Who knows Tammy?
Tammy.
Who doesn't?
Can you hear us, Tammy?
I can.
You
Ditto, ditto. Oh
You're
my
on. We can
goodness.
even see you.
Are you like in person?
Yes.
We
Oh
are.
yeah, you can't see. We can't turn the camera around. We probably have what, 50, 60 people in here?
Oh my gosh, that is so exciting.
And another 35 or 40 online. So
Yeah.
we got about 100 people.
Oh, this is so cool. So did you guys have like a humongous hug fest?
We're not there yet. We're still a little bit like, we're not there yet. We're just getting used to how each other looks right now. Who we want to hug. We're like, I don't remember you looking that way before the mask.
Oh, now Scott, we all look a little different after 2020. Come on. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for having me. I'm so super excited. And by the way, this is the first one that I've come into that is in person. And I'm just, oh my gosh, I'm like overwhelmed. It's so awesome. Well, guys, I am here as a guest and thank you for your time. I'm sure you guys are anxious to get up and hug each other. And yet we are bringing Bold Local back to you, which is so really, really cool. And here's what's really neat about it. This is going to be a history making session and it's not because it's new or it's Bold Local. It's because it literally is the largest number of June Bold sessions in Bold history, going clear back to 2009. So that tells you just, how much people are like, okay, we need the mindset, we need the tools, we need the skills, we need some things in our belt right now. And so I want to ask all of you, and those of you that are joining me digitally, how many of you have been to Bold in the past? And Scott, if you could just be my eyes for me since I can't see them. Are there a lot of hands?
We got about 15 in the room.
Not many, Tammy. Like 15.
Oh, I see a lot of digital hands. I'm digging it. Gina, your picture is awesome. All right. Who's taken it at least 3 times? More, maybe 5?
Just a couple of old veterans in here.
Okay, so here's the deal. We've got some Bold alumni in the house. All right. So here's what's really important for me to point out, guys. This is not Bold Pivot. If you experience Bold Pivot and that was your only experience, it's not Bold Pivot. If you experience Bold Classic, it's not Bold Classic and it's not Bold 2.0. Now you might be going, what? So Bold Pivot number 1, that was a live stream. That was, you tuning into something and we basically talked at you. There was no ability to really interact. There was certainly no ability for us to coach. and Bold coaches are coaches. And so, it was different, and yet it was what we needed when the world shut down. And so, like Bold always does, y'all, we're always leveling it up. So that's kind of what we've done. And now we're going to bring you back into these smaller, much more connected groups. And here's what I want you to think about. This Bold is really designed to help you get your focus back. Truly focus on what's going to bring that big life. Literally give me like a whoop whoop if you think that 2020 allowed us, or maybe it even conditioned us to really get disconnected, right? And I don't just mean like physically. I mean, like getting on Zooms and we don't have our cameras on, or we have our mute on, and we're multitasking. Anybody besides myself, right? And so, we've kind of gotten disconnected, and it's really fostered this distracted being in ourselves. And so this Bold Local is going to be extremely, very, very interactive, because guys, that's how we retain more. It's how we grow more. And it's how we experience the transformation that has always happened in Bold. And so let me just give you a little bit about what this Bold is. And I'm going to have you walk through something with me real quick, and then we're going to talk about it. Number one, it's 6 weeks. It's 3 hours a day. It starts on June 8th, and it will run 6 consecutive weeks. So it's 6 weeks, 3 hours, 18 hours total. We do have a free session that is 1 hour that is next Tuesday. And I'll put the link to that in the box here in just a second. And yet, here's what I'd like to ask you guys. Where is the gap in your business right now? Where do you all see the gaps?
There's a lot of gaps over here, Tammy, because they're all looking at you like a deer in headlight.
I think the question is, what's a gap?
Okay, so all right, what would you like to have more of? What are you struggling to acquire right now? Oh, it's always the power of the question. So you ask a lame question, you get lame answers. You ask a more clarifying question, you get it. There you go. So listings, right? It's listings, and we know, guys, that what we are bringing through Bold Local is getting agents on listing appointments. Grab a pen, and I'm going to have you write this down because it's really important. We've already done Bold Local. You will not be the first, so you are not guinea pigs. I actually took it myself, and I'm going to talk about that. However, here's the number. Agents went on 12.88 listing appointments over those 6 weeks. I'm waiting. Did everybody go, what?
Say it again.
There's disbelief, Tammy.
I know.
Believe it.
I know. They went on 12.88, so just shy of 13 listing appointments over those 6 weeks. They also took an average of 11.38 contracts over those 6 weeks. And so, guys, when we talk about the gaps in our businesses, there's things that we need to be doing differently right now to get in front of qualified sellers and make it a potential seller and turn them into an on-market seller. And so, number one, that's going to be our focus, is getting those listings, because we know the listings are rolling right now. However, let's not forget about the buyers. I mean, are your buyers tied up in all those multiple offer situations where they're writing offer after offer after offer and they're not winning? Yes or yes?
Yes.
Right? And so what if you could learn some strategies on how to set expectations with buyers in advance during that buyer consult that would help them be prepared and ready to write offers that win? Wouldn't that give you a lot of time back? And by the way, wouldn't it create raving fans of those buyers? And that's what we're looking for. Raving fans refer you to other people, right? So that they're out there being that unpaid sales force for you. And so number one, we're going to walk you through how to take more listings. Number two, how to set expectations and how to write those offers that win. And then I want to talk about this last piece, and then I'm going to open it up to questions because I know I'm nearing the end of your time. Write this down. 90% of your success is mindset. Guys, it's how you think. And it's in everything, by the way. It's not just in business. Our success is in life, in parenting, in relationships, in health, in everything. Everything. 90% of it always begins with how we think. And yet every single one of us, me, you, all of you, Scott, that's you too. Every single one of us have that little voice that just likes to keep us in the comfort zone. And right now that voice can say to us, I don't have time. I don't have money. I took this before. And here's what I'm here to tell you. That voice plays at a really high level, especially when we're busy and we buy into that being the reason that we don't pour into ourselves. We don't invest in ourselves and our growth. And so I'm here today to ask you to take a stand for you and to take a stand for your potential. I want you to take more listings. I'd love to see you get more time back doing what makes you happy and really walk out of this bold with a mindset of abundance. Guys, your businesses are not meant to be your life. They are meant to fund your life. And right now in this market is really taking over a lot. And we've got to get you back doing some things that are different and things that we know are working. So I want you to join me in this history making session. And I want to walk through some of the things that we're going to do together. Number one, I'm going to go back and I want to talk about that mindset. We are going to erase and eradicate those limiting beliefs that hold us back from hitting those goals. Here's what I want you to hear me say. We're going to create unlimiting beliefs, right? That's what we need. We need sky is the limit and I can do anything beliefs. I'm going to give you some time-saving strategies and techniques that are going to help you operate more efficiently. Y'all, we got to operate more efficiently in this market or you're just going to experience burnout. And then we're going to give you, and I'm going to coach you through how to use some proven, timely scripts, as well as different delivery methods, if you will, that will naturally allow people to want to work with you. And then we're going to walk through your database. You all have acres and acres of diamonds in your database. We need to go mine your database, and we're going to teach you how to do that so that it produces the diamonds that you're looking for. And then the last thing, well, it's not really the last thing. However, my things that are in my head, we're going to walk you through some best practices on making calls, using texts, setting appointments, and closing contracts right now. Now, here's the really cool thing, and this is what's really exciting. Bold used to be how much? Scott, how much was Bold in the past?
If you signed up early, it was $7.99.
That's right. And it is $3.99, guys, and it reserves your spot. And you get to go start this journey of regaining your focus, taking those seller listings and just gaining back some time in this crazy market. Here's the thing. You know, in Bold, we've talked about, you Bold alumni, you know this. We've always talked about creating a life by design, right? Not by default. And the unfortunate truth is that this market is creating a life by default. And I am here to walk you all through writing your new chapter. And it's one that you're going to design, and it's going to be about what is most important to you. And so I'm going to put some registration links to both these 6 sessions as well as the free 1-hour session next week. And I'm going to turn it over to all of you for some questions. What questions do you have for me?
But Tammy, we got something else to announce about that price. Right, Scott?
Oh, okay, you have at it while I pull down these registration links.
All right. What if it was $199?
That's great.
What if it was what?
You know what? I totally messed up. I saw so many infomercials in the 80s and 90s. And I got it completely wrong. I was supposed to go like, what if it was $350? And you're like, that'd be great. And then I'm like, how about if it was $299? And then you'd be like, that's even better. And then I finally get to where I was like, $199. You guys be like, where do I sign? And I just went,
Oh, this is awesome.
we're kind of running out of time. So I was like, let's just go right where we're going. So $199, the way that will work is we will reimburse you $100 back on each close on your first 2 closings after you're in Bold. So they can make it $199.
180 days.
Within 180 days. Yeah, if you're like, hey, it worked, but it took me like 5 years to close my first deal, you know,
we're doing the 180 because obviously new construction could take a little longer, so we don't want you to miss out on being able to get reimbursed. But there is gonna be a process that comes out later of how you get your $100 per transaction, but it's up to 180 days.
What's your average commission?
Great question.
We need y'all to make more commission. We can't afford markers right now.
Well, I love that question because if you take your average commission and let's say, they're doing 11.38 contracts. Let's say that you don't believe in yourself, which, oh my gosh, I'm going to work on that then because we've got some work to do. And let's just say you say, okay, I'm going to do 8. What is your average commission? And then multiply that by 8, because then all of a sudden you're like, wow, right?
Tammy, I'm not feeling very bold with markers today. I've tried 4, I'm giving up.
You're what?
So what's the return on investment if your average commission here is, can we say $8,500?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's say that.
Let's say that. We were talking about calculating cap rates earlier, Amy, right, in the commercial meeting. What's the return on investment if you invest $199 and this great training only helps you to do 1 extra deal than you would have done anyway? Only 1.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But let's say that's what it was. What's your ROI on that? 300%? More than that, isn't it? I think it's going to be. Yeah, I think it's going to be in the thousands. What's the ROI? Mark Jackson could probably do it in his head. $200, invest $200 and make 85. Let's make
4,100. It's 41 times money.
4,100% return on investment.
Wow.
I'm an investor, and if you can show me that deal, I'll do it. So, by the way, I will be in there with you. I'm doing bold too.
Me too.
I love
I haven't
that.
done it in a few years. I'm excited about it. It's changed my life. It's life changing. Just the mindset stuff alone that it's done for me over time. Right when I joined Keller Williams, I went into bold like before I actually joined Keller Williams as a team leader, and it was part of the reason I took the job because I was like, this company is pretty amazing. And what's cool is it's been rewritten. This course was originally written, what, Tammy, 2011, 10?
2009.
You know, and that was back when we had the opposite problem. We had too many listings. A seller would call you and be like, I need to list my house. And you'd be like, great, I'll be by sometime next week, and, buyer called and jumped in the car. And now it's the opposite, right? So the curriculum's been rewritten. It's different material because we have different market of the moment we're in. So.
Well, what's really awesome about what you just said too, is it goes back to, there's this principle that we teach in bold, and it's be, do, achieve. And we've all been conditioned throughout our lives that if we want more in life, we just have to do, and do some more and do some more. And if I'm not getting the results, I just need to do more of it. And the problem was always that it all started up here first. And so that's the being part. We really walk through, how do you transform your mindset so that you step into being someone that wakes up in the morning and says, I'm a $50 million producer. Because you know what? Then I'm going to go out and I'm going to do the actions that person does because I'm thinking differently. And so, when you talk about that, that's really where the transformation has always come, because nobody else has this. Everybody else just teaches you to go do, and they never work through the mindset.
Through the B part. That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, if you want to make $500,000 a year and you've never made $500,000 a year, how would you approach that?
Yeah.
And if you back up far enough, the first step is you become the person that makes $500,000 a year.
Yeah. Yep.
Then you're able to do the things that a person does who makes $500,000 a year. And then guess what happens? Then you make the money.
Yeah.
Why do lottery winners end up broke in a few years?
They didn't do the work.
They didn't become the kind of person that can steward millions of dollars.
That's right.
And they lose it. That's
a perfect example, Scott. Wow. It's so true. It's so true. So this is, we're just, it's such an exciting time. And, and I think sometimes people think, oh my gosh, I'm just, we're bored with, the Zooms and all these things. And I think that it's what we're bored with is not being able to connect. We're bored with not being able to talk. The Zoom part of it has allowed us to maybe attend things that we couldn't attend before because we physically couldn't be there, or maybe we had children at home. And yet what we really missed was the ability to interact. And these 3 hours that we're together in this Bold, of those 3 hours, 1 hour of it is all of you in your teams and doing all of those things. I took it as a student. I am not somebody who thinks that I should ever deliver something, even though I know this material, without taking it in this format. And I took it, and y'all, it's amazing. It was moving. It was able to just transcend through. And we did so much interaction that when it was done, I literally was like, it's over. Like, how can it be over? And it had been 3 hours. And so we're just really excited. And I think that excitement's got out, and that's why we don't have enough people to take it everywhere that it needs to go. And yet you guys get to be part of history. So it's pretty cool.
So we only have a certain number of seats available for the whole
Yeah.
triangle. And
Yeah, because we want it small so that we have this.
so it's not a normal Zoom, right, Tammy? We're gonna do like we used to do on Bold with teams and breakout rooms and reporting
Yep.
numbers and things like that. So it's gonna feel a lot like the original Bold, and that's why it's limited. So it's not just a broadcast presentation, it's actually a participatory
That's right.
course. So
Where are they having it, Scott?
in your,
On your computer.
on your computer, wherever you are, there you are.
Wherever you are. Yes.
There you are. Be here.
And I'll tell you, I've been asked, about like, well, gosh, can we do it in person now that things are starting to open up? And it's really written to be put into this format so that we interact this way. And the other reason that we did it so close to everything being opened up is obviously other parts of the country are following different guidelines. And the other thing is it's June. And so, people that ordinarily would not be able to attend something like this in June because children are out of school can actually do that. And so it's really the best of both worlds.
It's an awesome thing. It's such an awesome thing. At my first market center, there was an agent who had been so changed by it. She used to pay every year for another agent to go to Bold. She would just donate like a scholarship. It was so life altering for her.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead, Timmy. I was gonna say, we've got the registration on the Facebook event for the first step on the 25th. And then we will get Bold, the actual other 6 classes on the calendar for registration.
Hey, Tammy, last thing before you go, have you heard of any market centers getting creative with like saying everybody that's taking Bold's going to bring their laptop into the market center and kind of at least occupy the same space while they're doing it?
Well, we have had people talk about it. And so, we went, of course, to the powers that be and said, okay, what do you think about this experience that people have written it? And they don't feel like if they were all together, they would have the same experience, because then it's going to be what I'm doing with you right now.
Okay.
Right. And they're all there. So then what happens is they get distracted, especially after all this time. Right.
We have little cubby holes and places all over the market center where people could hide out. And
Oh,
anybody-
totally. You could totally do that.
That's what I mean. Like, kind of do your own thing, do it on your own computer, but be in the same market center and get together when we're done with the session and stuff like that.
Well, and what we have seen, Scott, is a lot of places are because we're going to be done at noon. They're going to have lunch at the market center at 12:30. And they've got, sponsors coming back in, because of course our sponsors, our amazing vendors have supported us for years and years, and we collaborate together to support each other. And they've not had the ability to be in front of our people. And we have so many new people to the business that don't even know our vendors yet. So that's also another opportunity to bring, and then just kind of come back and share some ahas and what you took from it, and have some lunch and break bread together.
All right. Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah, thank you all. Make sure that you go register, get your spot so that we have those filled for you. And I'm going to see you all next week on Tuesday, and then 2 weeks from that, we'll start.
Thank you, Tammy.
Yeah, thank you all.
Guys, so we're gonna be respectful of your time because we know we ran over, so we're gonna send the slides out for the awards and birthdays and stuff, but we do have three announcements. You go get Natasha.
Yeah.
I'm gone, right?
Yes. So thank you for everybody who came out the Red Day. It was an amazing day. Hope Brains was more than appreciative of what we did. The first crew knocked out pretty much the whole day's worth of work that they had to go find more work for the second crew to do. So everyone who showed up, made donations, our vendor partners, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for showing up on Red Day. So.
By the way, Reagan King had the original T-shirt from 2010, the first Red Day.
Is she coming?
Yeah.
Come on up, Natasha.
Don't everybody look at.
We just wanted to show you all what she actually looks like. So I joked, like back during the lockdown period, everything, we were doing a staff meeting one day, and I was like, one day I'm gonna walk in here and I'm gonna ask the person in front of us, I'm Scott, nice to meet you. And she's gonna say, I've worked here for like a year. So Natasha's husband has gotten a huge opportunity in his industry in pharmaceuticals, and unfortunately, that job is not in Raleigh. It is in America's Red Bay. It's in like the most beautiful place ever. It is in Cincinnati, Ohio. So Natasha and her husband, so we wish them the best, and we are going to miss Natasha like so much. And I'm very hopeful that her husband's going to get a big promotion. She's going to call in like no time and be like, hey, good news, we're going to transfer back to Raleigh. So,
but with the promotion, I don't need to work, but you know, I'll come hang out with you guys.
It's a hard lot.
So we appreciate you more than you know, Natasha, for the things that you've given us in the short time that, God, it's not a short time, June will be a year.
Wow.
so
And this is the first time I've seen her face.
I know.
That's right.
So, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
she'll be closer to home to be able to visit family. She'll be a drive.
And for anybody who wants to, on Friday, the 28th is Natasha's last day at 4 o'clock. We are going to be having some cake here at the office as a little send off for Natasha. So we'll send out a reminder, but 28th, 4 o'clock here at the office. So.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Mark, can you come up with me?
Two more announcements, guys.
And then y'all can be out, you can eat. We have a diversity committee and we don't have as many people up there as we would like. So hopefully y'all will get up there. But this young man came on board and he has, and we wanted to do community outreach, meaning not just Red Day. I believe that we should give back to the community throughout the entire year because that's what Keller Williams is about, culture. And so he was nice enough to mention that he knew a place that we can go and actually do that. So can you tell them a little bit about Healing Transition? And we're going to be doing that this Saturday. So those of y'all, I was there all day for Red Day. You missed that. This is your opportunity. You don't have a weekday. It's on a Saturday. I didn't like about that 9 to 11, but okay, I'll do it. But you can come out and you can bring someone. We need 20 people at the men's campus and the women's campus. So tell them about what Healing Transition is.
So Healing Transition, do any of you know what that is? So it is a center for homeless and underinsured people who are having a problem with addiction. And it has a detox center. So if you police pick up the person from out of the streets and they're in active addiction or overdose, I'm on the board, so I'll talk as we will help them through the addiction and then they can live in the center for up to a year, as long as it takes for them to get a white chip or sober. We teach them how to live, basically. They go into halfway housing at the end. We have a place for the children to come and visit them because most of them have lost their children, they've lost their husbands, wives, whomever. And all of that sort of comes back during this process. So, and before COVID, our center for men is over 300 a night sleeping in there. And for the women, it's over 200 a night sleeping in there. And we have, most of them are now on the floor. We have many on the floor because there's so many in the opioid addiction. We have a lot of young people. The 20, 25-year-old sets are having to come in. And fortunately, we have about a 90% alumni sobriety rate. That's awesome. So what we've done is we have a capital campaign that's in action right now. It's to raise $17 million to build more centers at both places. We've raised $16 million and we're almost to our $1 million in. And then we've already broke ground virtually. On this Saturday, we will be spreading mulch. Seems like that's the thing to do this spring. And there are always opportunities within the facilities for volunteers and anybody that wants to get involved with this particular thing. It's very life-changing if you haven't seen anything like this before. Tomorrow, I'm 31 years sober. And so it is a lot to me to be a part of this program because it's watching people change their lives. And so love to have you all come out. 20 at the men's campus, which is in Dix Park, and 20 at the women's campus, which is in Umstead Park. And from 9 to 11. And then there'll also be tours through the facilities. And some of the people who are in the facility will be working with us so that you can ask the questions and get to know them. So appreciate you guys getting out and doing that on Saturday. We did it on Saturday so that the people who worked and couldn't be at Red Day during the week could join us. So if you have any questions, let me know. But,
And tell them what other committee that you're on.
United Arts Council?
Huh?
Which one?
Miss North Carolina. Miss North
So I'm on
Carolina.
the United Arts Council of Wake County, and
Yes.
we do artists in schools, public art around Wake County. So all the murals you see and all of those things. I'm on that board. I was the president last year of that one. And I'm actually going into emeritus status this year. But if you've got any ideas for your public schools or charter or private schools that need artists, I'm on that board. And then I also am Miss North Carolina, which is the line into Miss America, which we'll have in June this year. It's going to be in High Point instead of here. We raise $100,000 every year and we give it to the girls. They pay for college. And that goes straight into their scholarship fund. We put it into a fund. They can't go buy a Corvette or a new car or a fund. We distribute it through the universities. So if you know of any young ladies who need some scholarship money and are interested in getting into that, I'm also there.
So they also do BEDU PAP. They go to school, then they get the job, then they buy a Corvette.
That's right.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mark. So it's 20 volunteers, so 40 total volunteers. Can they take a teenage child or somebody that wants to help you? Or are there any limitations? Okay, so if somebody wants to bring a spouse or friend or partner to volunteer, that's okay.
Teenagers need to burn off a lot of energy, take them out.
Yeah.
All right, one last announcement. We're having a summer bash here at
Now that we can like get back together again. So we're gonna have food truck, something out in the parking lot, cornhole, just
see
hang
what
out,
your
casual.
counterparts' faces look like.
Yeah, we get reacquainted with humans.
More to come on this, but we just wanted to share. It's June 23rd, which is a Wednesday from 3 to 5 p.m. So,
And then Mega Camp will be coming up in August. Again, hard to believe that's already, and I think it's gonna be a hybrid, it sounds like, of virtual and in-person. And so we'll probably be doing something virtual here. We'll build something social and fun into around that too, so.
all right.
All right,
Thank you, guys.
this was our first time together again. We'll get better at our timing. We'll get it down to
Second.
for you and me. First week. We'll get back to where we got our timing down, promise. So thank you